What is up, everyone? My name is Jack Saffel, back again with another video, and today I'm here to start the first episode, or the first review of a long series. This is probably the biggest review series I'm ever going to do, and what this is I'm going to review every single WrestleMania. Well, every single WrestleMania I haven't reviewed. I've reviewed the last three WrestleManias, WrestleMania 31, 32, and 33, and 32 and 33 are, in my opinion, some of the best reviews I've ever done. And WrestleMania 31 was my first WrestleMania I ever reviewed, so I figured I'd go back and review the first 30 WrestleManias and get all of them up on my channel. So I'm going to upload these around Mania season and all that, when things really start to get heated up. And let's kick things off with the very first WrestleMania, which took place at Madison Square Garden, New York City, March 31st, 1985. And the ring announcer was Howard Finkel, and on commentary was Gorilla Monsoon and Jesse the Body Ventura. These two were basically the voice of the golden era of wrestling, which was 1984 to 1992, 93, around that time period. This is when things really started to take off for the World Wrestling Federation, as it was known at the time. Vince wanted to do something big with professional wrestling. Professional wrestling at this point was kind of your dirty, rugged wrestling type thing, and Vince wanted to make it more mainstream. He wanted to take it to the big time, and he thought, why not combine the world of wrestling with the world of celebrities and kind of make the Super Bowl of professional wrestling? That was in his mind at the time. And Howard Finkel actually came up with the name of WrestleMania because he was thinking about Beatlemania in the 60s and how that kind of took over. So he figured, why not wrestling have its own little thing like WrestleMania? So that's where he came up with the name. And it was on closed circuit television. Pay-per-view wasn't really a thing at the time. I don't even know if it was out yet, but it was on closed circuit television, and this was a big gamble for Vince McMahon. Vince even said himself it was the biggest gamble he's ever been involved with. So let's see how that gamble paid off with the first ever WrestleMania. So we kick off the show with Mean Gene Okerlund, who was the backstage interviewer for the majority of the night, performing the Star Spangled Banner, and he was okay with it. Obviously, the Star Spangled Banner wasn't exactly the song to kick off WrestleManias. Usually it's America the Beautiful, and we've seen way better performances with that. But Mean Gene did alright for singing the Star Spangled Banner. And so how this show was very formulaic, but that was just how wrestling was back then. It was a formulaic standard. So before every match, there would be Lord Alfred Hayes. He would be talking like right in front of the entranceway. Now, this is 1985. Obviously, there were no big, grandiose stages like we see nowadays. It was just a little way for wrestlers to get into the ring, and that was it. That was about it. So, Lord Alfred Hayes would basically briefly run down the storyline before every backstage interview that Mean Gene Okerlund would do with the wrestlers, and he was very, very nervous. You can tell he was shitting himself the entire time, which, honestly, I don't blame you. When you're doing something as big as the first WrestleMania, I'd be shitting myself too. So, props to Lord Alfred Hayes for not completely breaking down throughout this pay-per-view. We kicked things off with Tito Santana, Arriba, versus Parts Unknown, Weight Unknown, The Executioner, which is actually Playboy Buddy Rose in the weird red and black mask. I don't know why he's weight unknown. You could just put scales on the cunt. It's not that hard to work out someone's weight, even in 1985. And, yeah, before every match, there would be pre-recorded interviews with Mean Gene Okerlund. And Santana said nobody will stop him, and now the Executioner will find out about the big leads after he faces him. And then Executioner cuts a really awkward promo saying how everyone will know something about him after the match because no one really knew much about the Executioner and how he's going to go after Santana's hurt leg. So one thing I really liked about this show was that everyone had a strategy when like going after a body part or something like that. It was really good to see. Tito Santana, he was obviously the much better wrestler in this match. I'm not knocking Buddy Rose or anything, but Tito Santana was working at a very smooth rate during this match. While Executioner, to me, came off very sloppy in this. He did climb the top rope, but then Santana threw him off. He tried to work on his leg, like he said in the promo, but he gets thrown out of the ring. The match ends with Tito Santana hitting a flying elbow and the Executioner tapping out to the figure 4 leg lock. So, it was an interesting opening match, first ever match in WrestleMania history. Tito Santana looked great. This was back in the day where the wrestlers were just jacked up, man. Like, you look at wrestlers nowadays, they're very toned and slim. Well, back then, they were just these buffs. But Tito Santana looked great in this match. And as for the Executioner, yeah, that's all I have to say for him, man. So, yeah, fine enough way to kick off the show. After that was King Kong Bundy with the Mouth of the South, Jimmy Hart in his corner, taking on SD Jones, Special Delivery Jones. And SD cuts a very energetic promo about the match, while King Kong Bundy, which I would say, he's actually not that bad at cutting promos. You'd think like the big guys are a bit shit at promos, that's why they get the managers to say it for me, but King Kong Bundy's actually not that bad. And he'll get him with a 5 count in the match. So, did Big E, remember in Big E in NXT, he had the 5 count gimmick? Did he rip it off King Kong Bundy? That's interesting. But this match was super quick. Super quick. Special Delivery runs at King Kong, but he catches him in a bear hug position, rams him into the corner, he hits an avalanche into the corner, and then hits a splash, and wins in a 9-second match. It's actually 23 seconds, but whatever, it's 9 seconds, according to WWE. We all know WWE likes to tweak the numbers in their favor, whether it be attendance records or anything like that. But, yeah, they claimed it was 9 seconds, but if anyone had a watch, you know it was actually 23 seconds. After that, we had kind of a similar match to Tito Santana versus the Executioner. We had Ricky Steamboat versus Matt Borne. Matt Borne, for those of you who don't know, is actually the guy who played Doink the Clown during the New Generation era. This was when he was just a normal wrestler. And Borne says that he has a chance to beat him because Ricky Steamboat is too nice of a guy and he'll be there to beat him up. While Ricky says this is the biggest test for every wrestler because it's the biggest wrestling event across the nation and he'll get mean with him inside the ring. And very similar to Tito Santana and the Executioner, it was obvious who the better wrestler was. Ricky Steamboat, man, he was in amazing shape in this match. This was before he had the dragon gimmick kind of put on him. He was just Ricky Steamboat. But he worked, just like Tito Santana, he worked so smooth in this match. He is one of the best ever. He just knows how to make everything so crisp inside the ring. As for Matt Borne, he was there, basically. He works on the side headlock for a while. And throughout the majority of the match, and Steamboat hits an atomic drop on him, and Ricky would win with a flying crossbody from the top rope, and yeah, great showing for Ricky Steamboat. After that, oh boy, we had Brutus Beefcake, before he was the barber, with Luscious Johnny Valiant in his corner, taking on the son of Bruno Sammartino, David Sammartino. His dad was in the corner of this match, and the fucking promo that Johnny Valiant and Beefcake cut before the match. Beefcake didn't even say anything. He just blew a raspberry into the mic like that, while Johnny Valiant was just talking shit. And he says in his promo that he's walking down the ramp right now, and then it cuts, and he's already in the ring. Like, alright. Even in a wrestling event, continuity doesn't exist. But when David and Bruno came out, Bruno Sammartino got a massive ovation from the crowd. He had just, I don't know if he had recently retired at this point. No, because he competed the next year at WrestleMania. Because he just sold out that arena, Madison Square Garden, so many times it's not even funny. So Ventura says the crowd is getting a good view of Brutus Beefcake when he got a front face lock on David on the ground, and his ass is like sticking out. And so, how does Gorilla replies? Oh, I love it. Which sure about that, Gorilla. But Valiant body slams David in the ring, but Bruno fights for his son's aid. Chaos erupts. You know, all four guys are in the ring beating each other up, and it ends in a double DQ. So probably the worst match of the night. It was pretty if I'm being honest. It wasn't a good match at all. David Sammartino, sorry buddy, but when it comes to following in your father's footsteps, you didn't exactly do a good job at that. You're no Randy Orton, let's just say that. And Randy was probably like a little kid at this time. Then we got to the WWF Intercontinental Heavyweight Championship match, the first ever title match at WrestleMania between Greg the Hammer Valentine, who was the champion at the time, with Jimmy Hart in his corner, taking on the Junkyard Dog. Junkyard Dog was so over with the crowd. I remember the Legends of WrestleMania game and the build-up for this, and they'd do the interviews on Tuesday Night Titans. That was pretty cool. And Greg Valentine said before the match how he's going to show why he's the greatest Intercontinental Champion of all time. And Junkyard Dog basically said he's going to feel his fight and fury, basically. And so Junkyard Dog goes for like he goes on like on all fours, like the dog, because he's a Junkyard Dog. With some headbutts, he rolls around, headbutts him again while Valentine's on the ground. And Greg Valentine is definitely the more technical of the two. Junkyard Dog's the more rough and tough kind of a guy, while Greg Valentine's a more traditional professional wrestler. And he went to work on the legs of JYD. And Jimmy Hart tried to distract the ref, but Junkyard goes to sort him out as Valentine runs. But he moves out of the way, and Greg Valentine accidentally runs into Jimmy Hart, which anytime a guy would accidentally run into his manager, it got a huge ovation from the crowd, because I feel like the managers back in the day, they were used as kind of like heat magnets for the heel wrestlers to make them really hate them. Valentine, how it kind of ends, Valentine's pins Junkyard Dog with his legs on the rope. Ref doesn't see it, and he retains the Intercontinental Heavyweight title. But then Tito Santana runs to the ring and has to explain to the referee he put his legs on the rope to get the pin. And then he restarts the match for some reason. I reckon they should have just ended it there. I know Junkyard Dog was super popular, but he was fine. He didn't need the win. So the ref restarts the match and counts out Greg Valentine, which I don't know. I don't get what the point of that was. Junkyard Dog celebrating happily, even though he didn't win the IC title. I mean, yeah, he did win the match, but still, you didn't win the championship. So why would you be all jumping around and happy about that? Didn't get that. But we move on to the tag team title match between the US Express, which is made up of Barry Windham and Mike Rotundo. Weird to see Mike Rotundo as a babyface, considering him as IRS, which I seem to always remember him as. Captain Lou Albano was in his corner, and they were taking on the foreign bad guy heels, the Iron Sheik and Nikolai Volkoff, with classy Freddie Blassie in his corner. By the way, people fucking hated Freddie Blassie, because when the foreign heels got into the ring, they were throwing trash in the ring, and Volkoff sang the Soviet Union national anthem, and the crowd just booed the fuck out of them. Throwing trash in the ring. They pretty much want them dead. And then Iron Sheik utters his classic lines, Russia, #1. Iran, #1. America, I love when the Iron Sheik does that. Iron Sheik has to be one of the greatest heels in the history of professional wrestling. He was so good at making people want to see him get his ass kicked. And Barry Windham and Mike Rotunda. It's also weird for me to see Barry Windham as a babyface, because I've always seen him as the guy in the Four Horsemen in the NWA. But it was cool to see US Express come out. They get a big ovation. They're the all-American boys, not the Fabulous Rougeos. But yeah, they got a big ovation from the crowd. Volkoff held Windham in the corner, but moved when Sheik hit a drop kick on Volkoff, like kind of similar to what Junkyard Dog did to Greg Valentine and Jimmy Hart in the previous match. And Windham hits the running bulldog, but Sheik breaks it up. Then later on in the match, how it ended, Sheik grabbed Blassie's cane, whacked it over Wingham's back, Volkoff pins him, and they win the tag team titles and basically skedaddle. So, fun match. I actually didn't mind it. Yeah, fun little tag team match. Seeing Sheik and Volkoff get the heat on the fans was just fantastic. And yeah, good stuff overall. After that, not so good. The $15,000 Bodyslam challenge between Andre the Giant and Big John Studd, with Bobby the Brain Heenan in his corner. If Andre loses the match, he has to retire from wrestling. The build-up for this match was basically Big John Studd claimed to be the only true giant in pro wrestling, and he kept saying that, you know, no one can pick me up and slam me, because, yeah, I'm the true giant. And Andre the Giant was basically heard that and was like, nah, fuck off, mate. And the November of 1984, which was a couple of months before the show, Studd and Ken Patera cut off Andre's hair in this match, and this was his redemption match to kind of get back at them for humiliating him last November. So this was not a technical match at all. This was very sluggish between the two, which if you get two big guys like Andre and John Studd, that's kind of what you're expecting. Andre ended up managing to body slam him and the crowd lose their shit. And what I love is he grabs the bag of money, because Andre was a babyface at the time. So yeah, he throws it out to the audience, being nice and all that, and just Heenan grabs the bag of money and then fucks off out of the arena. It was great. I love Bobby Heenan, man. And obviously, this would not be the last time Bobby Heenan and Andre would meet up at a WrestleMania, especially at a very, very important WrestleMania. After that, we had the Ladies Championship match. Leilani Kai with the fabulous Moolah in her corner, of course. Probably the greatest women's champion of all time. She held that belt for like 20 years or something like that. Something ridiculous. I think she's like the longest champion in wrestling history. I'm pretty sure she is. Taking on Wendi Richter with Cyndi Lauper, one of the most popular pop singers at the time. This was during the Rock and Wrestling connection with MTV. Cyndi Lauper had just released her debut album in '83. And it's regarded as like a classic pop album. It had Girls Just Want to Have Fun on there, which was the song they both came out to at this event, which was a massive hit for Cyndi Lauper. Like Captain Lou Albano was in the music video and all that. So get a massive ovation from the crowd. Very smart of WWE to get a name as big as hers, and someone who was very relevant at the time as well. So the match, yeah, it happened, I guess. Wendi Richter had a great ass. Leilani went for a high crossbody from the top, but Wendi rolled over to win the title, and they celebrated in the ring with Cyndi Lauper, and yeah, it was cool. Then we get to the main event. This was built up a lot, man. This was the big match everyone wanted to see. Hulk Hogan and Mr. T with Jimmy Superfly Snuka in their corner, taking on Roddy Piper and Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff, with Cowboy Bob Orton in their corner. And before the main event, Howard Finkel announced Billy Martin, who was a former New York Yankees manager, as a special guest ring announcer, and a whole bunch of celebrities come out to do their part, which is a bit of a theme in these next WrestleManias, where celebrities get really, really involved. And Billy announces the special guest timekeeper, Liberace, who comes out, do some high kicks with the Rockettes. So, yeah, Church of Satan member Liberace coming out. By the way, I'm not fucking making that up. He was an actual member of the Church of Satan. And the special guest enforcer was Muhammad Ali, which he got a massive ovation from the crowd as well. Roddy Piper and Paul Orndorff came out with some live bagpipes, which was good. They got so much shit from the crowd. They were booed the hell out of. While Hogan and Mr. T got the complete opposite. The crowd went fucking crazy for them. They actually came out to Eye of the Tiger. Now, if you watch it on the network or any DVDs, they dub it over with the Real American theme. But in this case, yeah, they came out to Eye of the Tiger by Survivor, because that was Hulk Hogan's theme for a while before he went to the Real American theme, because the US Express actually used that song before Hogan did. The match itself was fun. It was definitely a very fun match. Orndorff and Hogan's kind of start off, but they tag in their respective partner. They stare off, and then Mr. T and Roddy Piper, they stare off with each other. They legitimately hate each other. I know Roddy Piper did not like Mr. T at all, because he felt like he didn't respect any of the wrestlers and the wrestling business and all that, and he kind of was sticking up for the boys in the back. But they stare down for a bit. They have a little slap off for a bit, and then Roddy Piper shoot wrestles Mr. T to the mat with some amateur wrestling skills to kind of just piss off Mr. T, I think. And yeah, the match was fine. And one thing I didn't like, though, was the bias of Gorilla Monsoon, where I understand that was his thing to cheer on the babyface as well. Jesse Ventura cheered on the heels, but Mr. T got tagged into the match. He rakes the eyes of Piper and Orndorff, and Moonson just describes it, oh, it's that street fighting style and all that. I guarantee you, if Piper did the exact same thing to both of them, he would be giving them so much shit. But which he kind of did, because Piper attacked Mr. T from the back area, and he says, oh, he's Pearl Harboring him from behind, which was like one of his favorite sayings back then. How it ended was Bob Orton tried to hit Hogan with his cast from the top rope, but he accidentally hit Mr. Wonderful instead, basically knocking him out. He gets thrown out. Hogan pins Mr. Wonderful, Paul Orndorff, and Hogan and Mr. T win the match. And Orndorff gets up after Piper and Bob Orton basically just leave him there, and he's looking around like, what the fuck happened and all that, and Hogan and Mr. T tell him, chill dude, it's all good, and he walks out of the ring and is pretty disappointed about himself. But later on, I think Orndorff turns babyface after this. That might have been his babyface turn, I'm not sure. But after the match, they had a backstage interview with Gene Okerlund, and Hulk Hogan, oh boy, he was like,
Combat zone, Hulk.
Well, you know what turned me on, Mean Gene? The whole time I've been training with a dude.
It was a bit of a, I know he didn't mean it intentionally as a homosexual thing, but I thought that was pretty funny. And that's how we ended the show. So, the match of the night for me, I'd have to go with the main event probably. It was the most fun, had the best build out of all the matches in my opinion. And yeah, it was just a fun match to see Piper and Hogan and Mr. T overall. So if you're going to watch one match from the show, it might as well be the main event. How I'm going to rate this show, honestly, for a first WrestleMania, I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. If it wasn't the first WrestleMania, it was just any other WrestleMania, I'd probably give it a 5, maybe a 4, because the in-ring action wasn't exactly that great, if I'm being honest with you, but the spectacle of it all, and because it's like the first WrestleMania, and no one had ever seen anything like this before, you know, kind of bumps it up a rating for me. So this gets a 6 out of 10. This ended up being a huge success for Vince McMahon, made him a shit ton of money, and he would eventually do another WrestleMania next year, but we'll talk about that for our WrestleMania 2 review. So, yeah, thank you guys for watching this video. I hope you have enjoyed. If you did, make sure to leave a like, comment down below what you thought of the first ever WrestleMania if you've ever seen it, and if you want to see more from me, hit that subscribe button. You'll be glad you did. Twitter and Instagram's at JackmanLove31 if you want to check me out there. Thank you so much for watching. This should be fun, going through all the WrestleManias and reviewing them, and I am out in 3, 2, 1.